Thank you. Today we're going to start with Zion Amud Beis 27b, Mishnah. This is like a fundamental Mishnah. Hashem that's able to learn Torah every day. So learning, we should have this English immediately. And also for Shleima, father, and for Natalie and Bela. Okay, the Mishnah starts like this. Maseches Zavachim Daf. Someone slaughters a sacrifice. Which type of sacrifice? Rashi says we're talking about a shlamim, or another type of sacrifice that's eaten. That means, as opposed to a sacrifice which is like an oila, which is not eaten at all, not consumed by the person, only by the altar. As we'll see from the examples. So he slaughters the sacrifice, and he has intention when he's slaughtering it that he's going to sprinkle the blood outside of the temple, outside of the allotted place for it. And not just all the blood, but even just a small part of the blood outside. It's gonna burn the limbs, the organs of the sacrifice outside where it's supposed to be burnt, which is on the Mizbeach. Or even just one portion, a small amount of it. He's going to eat the part that's supposed to be eaten outside of the allotted place. If it's a kadshay kachim, then it needs to be in the Hazara. If it's kadshay kalam, it needs to be in Yerushalayim. But he has intention out of the allotted place. Or even just a part of it. That throws in this one detail that's going to give us a nice Amud of Gemara just to explain this. Or he's going to eat a kazayas of the skin of the alya outside. So pasul vein beikaris. It's pasul. All of these are pasul. In beikaris, there's no karis if he eats it. Alya is the fat tail, which is on a sheep. The sheep has the fat tail. And this is not the alya itself. The alya itself is fat. This is the skin of the alya. Skin of the fat tail. The fat tail was offered on the Mizbeach by the sheep. It goes on the altar. It's not eaten. There was a story, remember, with offered with the kidneys, maybe. The story with Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that this non-Jew told him that he ate from the Korban Pesach. So he said, "Nah, you didn't fool them. They didn't give you the best piece. They didn't give you the aliyah." He came back. He said, "He reviewed the ben Beseira to give me the aliyah. It's something fishy here, suspicious." And they caught him that he wasn't Jewish. Now, the aliyah is a little bit confusing because when it comes to the forbidden fats, all the forbidden fats are the ones that are offered on the altar. You're not allowed to eat it. Why not? Because it goes on the altar. But actually, the aliyah, even though it's brought on the altar, but it's not forbidden to be eaten. So it's confusing. It doesn't fit into the categories of the other. Anyway, no, it's on its own category, which doesn't fit with what seems to be the rules. It's funny. You have an Ezra and. Yes, this debate with a kuti, not a kuti, what does he call him? Karai. How come you this? And he argues with him back. He writes it in his commentary. And the answer that he gives him is not the halacha answer. He gives him like some other answer. Like, it's funny. Okay, anyway. So to the Ora, all of this is possible in Bekars. And the Ein Bekars means that if a person actually eats it, even though he invalidated the sacrifice by these thoughts, but he doesn't get karas from eating. It's not considered pigul, which pigul does have karas. Next case. Lizrik dami lamachar, miktas dami lamachar. While he's slaughtering the animal, he's doing the shchita, the sacrifice, he has intention not to sprinkle the blood in the wrong place, but he has intention to sprinkle the blood in the wrong time. Or miktas dami lamachar. So we're switching over here from the first The first half of the Mishnah was the space, the wrong place. Now we switch to time. Lahakter more of lamachar, to sprinkle the blood, and now we're talking about to offer the limbs in the right place, but the wrong time. They mix us more of the machar, only even a portion of it. Lechel b'sari lamachar, to eat from the flesh the following day. Now over here, Rashi points out, can't be talking about a shlamim, because a shlamim is actually eaten for 2 days, so the machar would not be a problem. Machar means tomorrow. Tomorrow's perfectly fine. It's talking about the other karbanos, or taida possibly, or a chatas, or a nasham, or other things that are only the day and the night. And so tomorrow would be out of bounds, out of a lot of time. To eat a kazayas from the skin of the aliyah, pigel v'chayavan alav kares. It's pigel. That's the halacha of pigel and kares if a person eats it. So when eats pigel, there's kares. There's kares by pigel. There's kares by nicer. It's actually left over. But the other things, there's no kares for. Kares is the extreme punishment, severe punishment, like eating on Yom Kippur type of punishment, like the serious one.
So these thoughts of sprinkling all of it or part of it, these are all pigel.
If it's out of the allotted time, it becomes pigel, but there's only kares if he eats it, not from having the thoughts.
Does it have to be the same person?
It doesn't have to be the same. Anyone eats it.
Hmm.
What was nicer? Nicer is leftover food leftover from the sacrifice out of the allotted time. There's two things over here that could be confusing. Pigel is thoughts that you're going to leave it over out of the allotted time before you eat it. And even if you eat it in the correct time, it's pigel and it's kares. Or you didn't have any thoughts. Your thoughts, everything's kosher. But instead of eating it in the right time, you ate it out of the allotted time, it's also kares. So when it comes to the time, there's two types of kares there. One is thoughts out of the time, and even if you eat it in the right time, it's already. Or if it's actually, we didn't discuss the nicer yet, we'll discuss it later. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. The Gemara says, Savrua, the way that they understood this Mishnah is, or aliyah, ka'aliyah dami. The skin of the aliyah is offered on the altar just like the aliyah itself. The aliyah itself is part of the emurim. Emurim are the limbs that are offered onto the altar, not the basar. Basar is the flesh, emurim are the limbs. The limbs, the organs. The organs that are put on the altar would include the aliyah. What about the or ha'aliyah? We understand that also goes on the altar. The problem is that he was thinking over here that he's going to eat from the or ha'aliyah out of the allotted place. Now, what do you mean? He doesn't eat. He's not supposed to be eating it. There's a double problem. He's not supposed to be eating it. So the Gemara asks, but he's having thoughts from something that's supposed to go on the altar, and he's having thoughts about eating it in the wrong place, and that's the person eating it, not the altar. Now, does that count? Who holds that thoughts like that can interfere with the validity of the sacrifice? Amar Shmuel, very important, the names over here, because we're going to be throwing them around a little bit. Shmuel says, Hamani, Rabbi Eliezer, this is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that we're going to have in a few pages. Damar mechashven me'achilas mizbeach la'achilas adam me'achilas adam la'achilas mizbeach. He holds that it's interchangeable. The person has thoughts that he's going to eat the part that's going to be burned. It affects it just like he had thoughts of burning it in that time. Or if he has thoughts of burning something that's supposed to be eaten, it says as if he had thoughts that he's going to eat it in the wrong time. Titanan, as it was taught in the Mishnah, it says, "Hasheichet es hazevach lechal davar shein darke lechal al hakte davar shein darke lahakte." If he has thoughts to eat something that's not meant to be eaten, for example, the limbs, and he has thoughts to do that in the wrong time or in the wrong place, or what was the next one, or but that's it, just those cases. To eat something that's not eaten, to offer something that's not meant to be offered, right? So then, for example, the food, the opposite. All of that is kosher, according to the Tanna Kama. First opinion says that that's not considered thoughts that would invalidate the sacrifice because it's not eaten anyway. In that way, Rabbi Eliezer Paisel. Rabbi says no, it's Paisel. That's because it's interchangeable. His eating with the Mizbeach's eating, his consumption with the Mizbeach's consumption is interchangeable. But Mayu Kimta. So what did we just do here? We just established Rabbi Eliezer that our Mishnah is like Rabbi Eliezer. Hey, Maseifa, let's go further in the Mishnah. It's going to say, it's on the next page, 2 pages. Zehaklal, the Mishnah starts off, this is the rule. And it says, if we're going to describe or ascribe our Mishnah to Rabbi Eliezer, then we're going to be in trouble because the next Mishnah is not going to fit. It says, Zehaklal, the rule is, Kol ha'sheichet v'ha'mekabel v'ha'maylech v'ha'zeirik lechel davar shedarke lechel lahakta davar shedarke lahakta. The rule is that anyone that shechs or receives the blood or walks the blood or sprinkles the blood with the intention to eat something that's meant to be eaten or to burn something that's meant to be burnt, lahakta actually means to smoke. We say burn, but the smoke sounds like you're like smoking, but it means like to smolder, smoke.
Right.
Lahakta davar shedarke lahakta. So davar shedarke lechel in she'ein darke lechel lai. It's very clear from the Zehaklal, from the rule that the next Mishnah is going to say that we do not follow Rabbi Eliezer. Asan l'Rabbanan. That's following the opinion of the Rabbanan, that the thoughts need to be about what's meant to be done. What are the thoughts doing? It's taking it to the wrong time or the wrong place, but it's meant to be eaten or meant to be burnt on the altar. Reisha Rabbi Eliezer Sefer Rabbanan. Comes out that the first half of the Mishnah is Rabbi Eliezer, the second half is Rabbanan. We don't like to do that, to ascribe half a Mishnah to him and half a Mishnah to him. It says Amar Lei. Who's the Amar Lei? Who was the one that was talking here? Shmuel was talking, right?
Yeah.
But who's he talking to? Because it says Amar Lei.
Begin with.
So Amar Lei.
Rabbana. Rabbuna. There's that.
Amar Lei in phases. In Reisha Rabbi Eliezer Sefer Rabbanan. I bet the lay. I bet there's a comment on the lay. Does anyone take out Amar Lach? I bet it would have been an Amar Lach. Like Shmuel would answer, say, yeah.
Lamakshan, it doesn't say that.
Oh, Lamakshan. Okay, fine. Okay, no problem. Usually lay would mean that I know who it is. To him, it means like there's someone specific.
But isn't this a separate Mishnah?
Yeah, but in our Gemara it's divided into 2 Mishnayos. But in the if you read the Mishnayos through, it's actually the following Mishnah. So the flow without the Gemara interjecting would have been just go straight through. Sorry.
The person received the atonement, but the Kohen didn't have benefit. Was the hide also disqualified?
That's a good question. When we said before that the Kohen was not allowed to eat from the sacrifice, the person received atonement. Certain sacrifices where the Kohen received the hide. Would he get the hide if he wasn't allowed to eat from it? Or was the hide burnt as well? I'm not sure. That's like that we have to look up in the Rambam and see what the was. Practical question. We can do it the Kohen leather business.
Good news, you have a 50-50 chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, where we're holding now, we just did the opinion of Shmuel. Shmuel's opinion is that it doesn't matter.
28.
It doesn't matter if his thoughts are about about eating something that's meant to be consumed, or consumed meant to be eaten. But ultimately, all of that is based on the premise that the Or Ha'aliyah is Ka'aliyah, that it's actually meant to be offered onto the altar. That's Shmuel's opinion. It's meant to be offered on the altar. So how do we fit this in with what we're discussing here? We'll have to follow the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi, it doesn't fit with the next Mishnah. Say, okay, fine. Let's Reisha Rabbi Eliezer. Ravuna says, Or Aliyah Lav Ka'aliyah Dami. Skin of the Aliyah is not like the Aliyah. Skin of the Aliyah does not go on the altar. Oh, that's our teretz. Easy. The whole problem was you're burning the Or Aliyah on the altar, and then you have thoughts about that you're going to eat it, and he said you don't eat it anyway. What's going on? It says no, the Or Aliyah is eaten. Can you actually eat it, or is it soft enough to eat? Amar Rava. Rava says, my time of the Ravuna. Is it the source of if it's eaten? We have a machlekes if it goes on the altar or if it's eaten. That's a machlekes, not the aliyah itself, but the skin of the aliyah. So we have a machlekes. What is asking? What is the source behind the machlekes? Well, let's see. Amar Rava, my commentary here, the Shita Mekabetzis, which is the Rabbah. My time of the Ravuna says Chelbay ha'aliyah. It's fat the aliyah. V'lo ora aliyah. It says it's fat the aliyah. It doesn't say the skin, the hide of the aliyah. It's just the fat. That's the part that's going to go on the altar. Okay, and Rava says that this is learned from the word Chelbay. Rav Chizda Amar, so far we have two opinions here. We have Shmuel's opinion, we have Rav Huna's opinion. Very different about what's done with the Ora Aliyah. Rav Chizda Amar, Rav Chizda says, Loilam Ora Aliyah Ka'aliyah Dami. He goes back to Shmuel. Shmuel's opinion, Rav Chizda would be following Shmuel, right? Says that the skin of the Aliyah is just like the Aliyah, which means that it gets burnt on the altar. So why over here is he thinking about eating the Aliyah? Saying that that's going to be affecting the validity of the sacrifice if it's not eaten anyway. And when he doesn't want to follow Rabbi Eliezer, he says, "Ba'aliyah shel gedi." We're not talking about the tail of a sheep, which that would actually go on the altar. We're talking about the aliyah of a gedi, of a goat. That's not brought on the altar. Normally, it is brought on the altar by a sheep. But here we're not talking about a sheep, so that's good. The Gemara says, "Kuluk k'shmuel le'amri." No one wanted to say like Shmuel because Shmuel had a difficulty. Reisha Rabbi Eliezer v'Sefer Rabbanan le'mukmi. They don't want to establish the Mishnah to be a mixture of two different opinions, and you have to read half like this one and half like that one. That's not the typical way of writing. Rav Huna le'amri. They don't want to follow Rav Huna because Or Aliyah Ka'aliyah Dami Kamash Malu, because they understood that the skin of the Aliyah is burnt. Rav Huna came up with this chiddush that only the fat part of the aliyah is burnt on the altar. The rest is eaten. They don't want to say that. They say, no, the aliyah is burnt on the altar. Rav Chizda my time le'amri, but Rav Chizda has a good teretz. We're not talking about the sheep. We're talking about the goat. So it's my kamash malon. The reason why is because, what's the chiddush? Or aliyah ka'aliyah dami. Are you trying to tell me that the skin of the aliyah is like an aliyah, which is that? You want to tell me that? But Tanina, that we know already. I have a Mishnah that says that by a sheep, the skin is part of the aliyah. So, what was Rav Chizda thinking? What's the chiddush of this Mishnah? We're not even talking about that. It says Rav Chizda Itzchach. Rav Chizda, it was necessary. He does have a chiddush. Sal Kedai Chamina could enter your mind to say, Hani Mili. When do we say that the Ora Aliyah is Ka'aliyah? Yeah. When do we say that? That's the Inyan Tuma derachich mitzdarif. Aval hacha ema lamashcha legdulak derech shamalachim lechem le'avdi malachim dachli hachi ema loik mashmal. Okay, so we'd say like this: that the Mishnah that talks about that the following items, the skin has the same status as the flesh. Orisayim kibesarim. That's talking about regarding tuma. If you're following in the Rambam, the Tumas Eichlen, right? What's food could contract tuma become tamei, and it can pass tuma on to other things. It needs to be a certain size. It needs to be a kabeya in order for that to happen. So, let's say you have, together with the skin, together with the flesh, you also have skin. And together that will make the shear of a kabeya, the contract tuma. So it says the following are a list of items where the skin would combine with the shear to contract tuma. So we say like this, that honey mili, I could have thought that the skin combines with the flesh to contract tuma because it's derachich, because it's soft. The skin of the aliyah is soft, so therefore it's mitzdarf, therefore it will combine. If it's tumas eichlim, it's kabeya. If it's tumas nevela, it's kazayas. Nevela is just a carcass. Be a kazay. But when it comes to kachim, and our question is it considered eaten? What was Rav Chisda saying? Rav Chisda says, Bar ahalya is ka'alya. You could have thought that ema lemashcha, because the pasuk says lemashcha, which means to more than anoint. It's like to appoint them to status, give them legedula. That means for greatness. Kederach shemalachim eichlim. It would only be eating in the Beis Hamikdash things that are meant to be eaten, that are the way a king would eat. And the kings won't eat the skin of the. So maybe the thoughts about that wouldn't count if. Talking about, is he jumping back to the goat, or is he talking about the sheep? Or Alia? Oh, maybe it will. Maybe it won't even go on the altar. I think. I know the whatever the case is, the thoughts about it maybe won't affect. I could have thought maybe the thoughts about it won't affect. The question is why not? But Eimalai, I thought maybe the thoughts won't affect. So Kamash Malan, Rav Chisda's Chiddush is that even though this is not something that would typically be eaten, but the thoughts about it do affect. I guess by the goat. It must be going back to the goat. We're dealing here with the goat, right? Okay. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Hashechet Asa'ila lahaktir kazayas mi'or shetachas al yachuslam kaimeh. So when shechts an oila is an elevation offering, a burnt offering, and while he's shechting it, he has intention to burn a kazayas of the skin that's under the aliyah in the wrong place. That's pasul vein bekaris.
How do people get these kind of strict thoughts? Like, there's obviously thoughts that distract you. Yeah, okay, I don't want to do it today. I'll do it. I should. You still have. This is like so odd.
I don't have an answer.
It's like the nuance of. I'm gonna do everything right, but because I'm gonna leave.
I'm so bored by that.
You didn't have the news.
They're mistakes. They're mistakes.
No, but
We don't ask questions on a mistake.
Like, what was the benefit of that mistake? In other words, you make a mistake because.
No, because he had something else to do, Lamashal, tomorrow after a certain time. So he figured, I'll do it after that thing. And then he realized it was the next day, that thing, not today. So he had in mind something that's for tomorrow by mistake.
You also have to realize that this is like Shmoneh Esrei. Like how long can you concentrate on Shmoneh Esrei? Like as long as, and then so they're bringing the karbanos, but they need to have kavana, this and that. That's how you forget the Alabiyava. You forget Masha V'ruach, the things.
Yeah, but you're not in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei and suddenly you're thinking of a kazayis matzah in the middle of Tishrei. It's such a left field thought.
Yeah.
Is there I think because I was like for something else.
Yeah, maybe this one you'd have to be there to see what's going on. Yeah,
When it comes to when it comes to cheating, it's usually the small thing. people don't say, "Oh, I'm going to steal $1 million." It's just like, "Oh, I'll just take $5 for myself. What's the difference?"
Yeah, but just I'm gonna go and steal a little thing of earth because I use earth. I'm like steal my like the, I don't know. It just seems very oral.
Adds up. It adds up.
So he has intentions to Gazayas. So Chutzim Kem is possible because Chutzlus Mane. If it's Chutzlus Mane, we're talking about over here the piece of skin that's under the Aliyah. Yeah, Chutzlus Mane, Pigel v'Chevelam Karas. It is considered Pigel and it's Karas exactly like it would be by any other limb or whatever. Elazar ben Yehuda Ish. What do you have in your Gemara next? Ish Avelim. Avelas, Abalim, Avelim. Oimer, he says, Mishum Reb Yaakov, V'chein Reb Shimon ben Yehuda ish kfar ikos. Oimer, Mishum Reb Shimon, Echad ar beis ha-process, Behi Madaka, V'echad ar haroish shel egel harach. The beis ha-process is like the...
It says Ish Avelim.
Avelim. Ish Avelim. I wonder what that means. Oh, that's a place called Avelim? Huh. So, whether it's the lower part of the leg on a small animal, the skin of the lower part of the leg on the lower, or it's the skin of the head of a young calf, or whether it's the skin that's under the tail. I have over here. Oh, okay, that's coming in. And anything that the sages said regarding impurity, that the skin, the hide, the skin is just like the flesh. And what do they mean when they gave that rule? This would be the area on the female animal that would be included. All of these things is chutzim kaimai, exactly the halachas that we have by chutzim kaimai, chutzlus mani. If it's chutzim kaimai out of the allotted place, it's only pasul, it's without kares. And if it's chutzlus mani, then it's pigel and there is kares. Now, we've said over here, hashechet ha'oila, he's slaughtering the burnt offering, right? It's an oila. Oila in zavachlai. It looks like it's only by an oila, this halacha. Why? Because by the other animals, maybe it would be eaten. According to Rav Huna, what was Rav Huna saying before? We have to jump back. Rav Huna said that the ora aliyah is not like the aliyah. It means the skin is not like the aliyah, it's not burnt. The skin is actually eaten, right? That was Rav Huna's, what he said. That's why over here we're talking about that he has thoughts to burn it. That's because over here everything is burnt. Even the parts of the animal that are normally eaten by other sacrifices by an oila are burnt. So over here we're talking about burning it. So we're talking about an oila, because otherwise it would have been eaten. Rav Chizda, but according to Rav Chizda, my area the tani oila listening zevach. According to Rav Chizda, that says that it's normally burnt. So every animal would be burnt. Why do you have to say an oila? My answer is Amalach Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda could respond to you by saying Bal Yishal Gedi. Maybe it's talking about the goat, but over there it's actually eaten. It's not burnt. That's why it would need to be an oila. If you want, we can just say, adjust the word, and it says Hashechet es oila, switch it to Hashechet es zevach, and then it's not specifically it. Okay. That was all just based on that one phrase in the Mishnah that his thoughts are to eat the kazayas of the ora aliyah. We go to the next piece of the Gemara here. That was our question. According to Rav Chizda, that says that normally it's not eaten, the ora aliyah, by a sheep. It's not eaten. So why does it have to say by an oila? It's never eaten. It could be any sacrifice. So we gave two possible answers. Either we're not talking about the sheep, or he is talking about every sacrifice. So we say over here that there's a difference between if it has thoughts of shalai b'mkaimai, out of its allotted place. Makim means place. Or chutz lizman, chutz l'mkaimai, or chutz lizmani, out of its allotted place or out of its allotted time. Zman means time. We know immediately. How do we know this distinction? Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Trei kroi ksive. It says two psukim in the Torah. Mahi. What are those two psukim? Amar Rabba. Rabba says, Shlishi. Let's take a look at the pasuk. It's not the literal reading of the pasuk. You'll see. Vayikra Zayin. Guilt offering. Thanksgiving offering. What pasuk? 18. Pasuk says like this: V'im heyachol yeyachel b'sar zevach shlama b'yem ashlishi lo yiratza hamakar v'ysi lo yichashev lo pigul yiyah v'nefesh yechelas mena v'nitzisa. So literally it means if any of the meat of his peace offering is to be eaten on the third day, it will not be accepted. If he eats it on the third day, it will not be accepted. It will not count for the one who offers it, or it will be rejected. That's the pigul. The person who eats from it will bear his sin. And now let's read it with the way our Gemara does it. Our Gemara is going to read it like this: if not any of the meat of his peace offering is to be eaten on the third day, this chumash adds in. Who's this chumash? This is the Chaim Miller chumash. They add in a commentary. She says, if he offers his sacrifice with the intention that any of the meat of his peace offering is to be eaten on the third day. You hear the intention that adding in those words to the commentary. That's not what the pasuk says, but based on the Gemara and based on the. So let's take a look at it like this. It says on the third day, and we're talking about now. Remember, we added an intention, right? We added that in. So zeu chutz lizmani. That's because he has thoughts out of the allotted time. Then the pasuk says pigul, which we translate as rejected. Zeu chutz l'mkaimai. That's out of its allotted place. Va'nefesh ha'yecheles mimenu. The soul that eats from it. Now mimenu means from it, from him, from it, right? Singular, not. How would you say plural? Mayhem. It doesn't say mayhem. It says mimenu, from it. Achad v'lo shnayim. It's talking about only one of them and not both of them. So only one of them is going to have kares and not both of them. And which one is it referring to? So chutz lizmani. That's chutz lizmani. Now the Gemara conveniently did that, but we're going to have to see if that's actually the case. It's excluding if it's out of its allotted place. Gemara asks right away, 1 second, you're maybe like pulling the wool over our eyes. Maybe it's exactly the opposite. So the Gemara says, Mistabra, it's more logical. The one that would be more strict would be the first one, because that's how the verse introduced this. On the third day, we're talking about, right? We're talking about, it starts off talking about out of its allotted time. So that would be the more serious consequence. It says, Adarabba, but when you read further in the verse, it goes from out of its allotted time to out of its allotted place. And then it says that someone that eats from it. So who would it be referring to? Going back on the first one or going back to the one that was closest to it? Elamar Abaya. Abaya says, Kyasar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi came. Amar Rav. He brought in the name of Rav, really? What's the comment over here? Let me just see the Vav. Amar Rabba. All right. It says the name of Rabba. Samech adetani Tana. It's relying on what the Tana taught. It's It didn't need to say shlishi in this other parsha we're going to see in a second. Because we already have the pasuk by us. So let's take a look. Let me jump to that before I turn the page. The pasuk that we just read was from Parshas Tzav. If you go to Parshas Kedoshim, you have a similar pasuk, but just much shorter. Do you have which pasuk it is? Does it tell you over there? 19:7 or 8. Yeah. Listen to this pasuk. Very similar, but just like condensed. It says, "Vim heyachol yechel b'yem hashlishi, pigul hu layiratza." The old pasuk is much shorter. It doesn't have the hamakir vaysi layachashev lay vanefshe chelisman. It's a shorter pasuk over here. So now, in the commentary over here, it says, let's see, pasuk 7. If it of being eaten on the third day, it is repulsive. Let me throw in the parentheses. If it was slaughtered with the intention of eating it outside its prescribed area, or with the intention of being in on the third day, it's repulsive to God and will not be accepted favorably by Him. If its sacrificial meat is indeed left over in the third day, then whoever eats it will bear the consequence of the sin, for he has profaned what is holy. So in other words, pasuk ches over here is talking about the noiser, when it actually is left over. Pasuk zayin is referring to the thoughts of that. Okay, so now, what Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi is quoting over here, it says, one second, I have another pasuk. That pasuk is in Parshas Kedoshim. It says over there, I missed it, I lost it. It's the same thing, but we already said in Machal Yachal me besides Zavach Hashlam B'Yem HaShlishi. Many Indian L'chutzlas Manai, T'neyu Indian L'chutzlam Kaimai. We're going to do is like this. In the pasuk in Tzav, we're going to drop the whole chutzlim kaimai part. We're going to just leave it with chutzlis mani. All of that is just going to be mani. Pasuk over here, Kedoshim. I'll leave my bookmark in it. Is vim heyachal yachal b'yem hashlishi pigul hu leyiratze is just chutzlim kaimai. Okay. Rashi points out that what do you gain by that? The pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim also has ba'ich lavavayni yisa, which is, and it finishes off that v'nichrasa nefesh. It says he's also going to be cut up. So there's karas by both. You put in Parshas Kedoshim that chutzlim kaimai. 1 second. Over there it also says karas. So Rashi says no. The karas over there is talking about actual nicer, not thoughts of leaving it, of doing it out of its place. Over there it's actually nicer. The problem is, it doesn't talk. If that pasuk is talking about chutzlim kaimai, then how does it continue on and say va'ichlav? Very interesting. Okay. So we're going to use that pasuk for the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim for chutzlim kaimai. And when by noiser it says, but noiser is when it's actually left over, right? It's actually left over. So then va'ichlav avayni yisa, it says va'ichlav. It doesn't say the one that eats it. It doesn't say the what could it have said? It could have said the ha'eichel, the one that eats. It says the one that eats it. So only specifically it. That's coming. It's coming to tell me that the karas is only by the nicer, not by the thoughts of not out of the allotted place. Where it says maybe the opposite. Maybe it's coming to tell me that only the one that eats the thoughts, the sacrifice that the thoughts about it were chutzlim kaimai out of its allotted place. That's one that can ulamute nicer mikaras, and it's actually doing exactly the opposite. It's saying that there's no kares by noiser. It says, well, mistaber noiser havle look me bekares. It's more logical that the noiser, the one that's actually left over out of its time, is going to get kares. Lemigmar avoin l'chutz l'zmanai d'dami le bezab. And then what we would do is we would say that the noiser has kares, and by noiser it says avoin is, and then it also says avoin by zmanai, and noiser and chutz l'zmanai are similar in two things because of the zayin and the beis. Now the zayin stands for both of them have to do with zman, with time, and they also both of them apply to the bama. On a bama, you also can't, on a private altar, when it was allowed, you also couldn't have thoughts of out of the allotted place. Now what we're doing is we're excluding from this out of the, by a bama you also can't have out of the allotted time. We're excluding from this the chutz l'kaimai, because a bama is automatically chutz l'kaimai. Right. There's no such thing as chutz l'kaimai by a bama. So the concept of time is not chutz l'kaimai, and the concept of a bama is not, it doesn't apply to chutz l'kaimai. Okay. So why do I need to talk about kares by chutz l'zmanai? Because over here, if you go back to the pasuk in Parshas Tzav, it doesn't actually say kares. It just says v'nefesh ha'chelas mimeno avaynai tisa. It doesn't say kares. It doesn't say b'nichrasa. But in Parshas Kedoshim, it does say b'nichrasa. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a verbal analogy with the word va'ichlav avaynai isa in Parshas Kedoshim, back to Parshas Tzav, where it says v'nefesh ha'chelas mimeno avayna tisa. So the avayn, we're going to learn kares back to where it says adarabba. You're looking to what to compare nicer to. Chutz l'kaima yehavelei look me bekares lemigmar avayn lechutz lemigmar avayn lechutz l'zmanei d'dami le b'mikdash. Really, what we should do is we should say that really it's talking about chutz l'kaima, not to compare nicer. I'm going to drop nicer. We're going to say it's talking about chutz l'kaima, and then we're going to learn avayn from chutz l'kaima back to nicer. And why? Because it's similar with the following similarities with the acronym is mikdash, which means, first of all, both of those are concepts of thought, machshava, that's the mem of mikdash, and as opposed to nicer, which is not a thought experiment, it's actually being left over. The second thing is that both of them apply not only to the entire, all the blood or all the meat or all the, there's even to partial part of the, remember we said part of the blood, he has to sprinkle part of the blood. Also, it applies to dam, which is the dalet.
Stands for what?
The kuf stands for ktsas, the dalet is dam, and the shin is for shlishi. Chutz l'zmanai and chutz l'kaimai. How does shlishi have to do with chutz l'kaimai?
No, Shlishi splits this one. The ones that are about 2 days, by the third day.
Both psukim say shlishi in it. That's what it's saying. Both the pasuk in Kedoshim and the pasuk of in Tzav say there's someone that eats it on the third day. So we could have learned chutz l'zmanei from chutz l'kaimei, and it doesn't have to read. It doesn't have to be the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim. Doesn't have to be nicer. Elam Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says Tani Zavdi bar Levi, Asya Kodesh. We have another source. It says Kodesh by each one. It says, let's see. Tzivhacha es Kedesh Shem Chilel v'Nechrusa. That's in Parshas Kedoshim. Kedesh Shem Chilel v'Nechrusa. Yeah, Yes Kedesh Shem Chilel. That's in that pasuk Ches. Kedesh v'Nechrusa. Ksiv Hasam, and over there it says Hasam. Oh, we're going to somewhere else now. The Seraph that's a nicer beish. That the nicer is burnt in fire. Malal and nicer, afkan nicer. So we're talking about the nicer. In other words, Parshas Kedoshim is not talking about. It's not talking about where it says kares. It's not talking about chutzim kaimai. It's talking about the nicer because we learn that from two places where it says kaidesh. And by nicer it excludes. It says ba'ichlav avayna yisa. No, it's okay. I have over here the one that eats it is only him gets kares. The mutei chutzim kaimai mikares, which means that chutzim kaimai does not get kares. Only nicer gets kares. The Gemara says, "My chazes the kra richa b'chutz lozmanei." Kra richa is referring to the pasuk in Parshas Sav. Why did you see? What made you say that the pasuk in Parshas Sav was talking about chutz lozmanei? B'shlishi, the Parshas Kedoshim tiyu, Parshas Kedoshim tiyu chutzim kaimai, and then when it says v'me'achel yachal b'yem hashlishi, it's actually referring to chutzim kaimai. You could say exactly the opposite. You could say that the first pasuk by Yas is talking about chutzim kaimai, Parshas Tzav. We could say that the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim is talking about chutz lozmanei, and actually nicer gets kares and not chutz lozmanei because it says vayichlav. And both of them have the same pasuk. It says mistaber richa b'chutz lozmanei. It says it's more logical that the pasuk in Parshas Tzav should be chutz lozmanei. The gamar avayin mi nicer the damile bezav, because we wanted to have a comparison to nicer because it's similar in those two concepts of zman and bama Both of them apply there. It says other abba richa b'chutz l'kaimai u'shlishi the k'toshim tiyu b'chutz lozmanei. So the damile samchei become a mayatlei. Says on the contrary, if you would say that the longer pasuk is chutz l'kaimai, and Parshas Kedoshim tiyu is talking about chutz lozmanei. What does it mean samchei? Therefore, mishum dedamle samchei lenaiser. So put it over there. If you want to tell me that there's a comparison. So forget the Gzeira Shava comparison. That the avayin, just put it right next to it in the pasuk. If you want to say that it's more similar, and then once it's next to it, then va'ichlav would be excluding it. Only it gets kares nicer, but not chutz lozmanei. Ela marava. Rather, Rava says, "Kula mikra richa asi," and we're going back to pasuk in Parshas Tzav. It says, "Heyachol yeyachel." There's two achilas: the person eating and the mizbeach eating. That's a double expression. Besides zevach shlama from the flesh of the offering of the peace offering, mashlama mepaglim u'mispaglim afkol mepaglim mispaglim. Just like the it makes pigel, it becomes pigel and makes pigel regarding the blood. If he thinks about the blood, so it makes pigel. Dam is mefagel and the bus and the murim become pigel. Okay, shlishi. Then it says in the pasuk the third day zelchus lozmanei. That's out of its allotted time. Lo yiratza. It should not be an appeasement. Artzas kasher kenatzas pasel. Which means in order for it to actually be invalid, you need to have everything else done correctly. Otherwise, it's not going to have that same status because it would be invalid anyway. Hamakriv, the one that offers it, it becomes puzzle today already. You don't have to wait for the third day for it to become puzzle. No, it becomes puzzle because of the thought. Oisai, when it says it says what does it say over here? Hamakriv oisai, the zevach hakasim medaber ve'ena medaber b'kayin. Davar b'zayveach, Rashi's version is. No, it's not talking about that. The sacrifice isn't invalid. It doesn't mean that the kayin is now invalid. A makrivai say lo yechashiv. Don't say that the kayin becomes invalid. Lo yechashiv. Now it says should not be counted. Layarv by machshavas acheres. Now, which means that if you mix in other thoughts, then that would invalidate this, and it won't even become pigel. Pigel, zechutz l'mkaimai. Pigel means that word pigel is coming to tell me an entirely different halacha than everything else that we were talking about until now. Until we were talking about chutz l'zmani, now we're talking about chutz l'mkaimai. Yeah, it will be. That means that if someone eats the shear of both of them together, to invalid, if he has thoughts of half a kazayas of this and thoughts of half a kazayas of that, they will combine together to invalidate the carbon, not to become pigel, but to become invalid. And then it says the soul that eats from it. Remember, this was an exclusion because meno is it. Only one of these is going to get the kares and not both. Okay. Let's leave it over here.
Woo. Awesome.
Okay.
Great job.
We're in the middle. It's gonna.
Great job. You recap the
Zab was the Zab was the 7. It was the not 7. It was the Zman and Bama. Yeah. Okay. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.